Star Trek Discovery. What can we say about you? We can say a lot, actually. We are not blind to the criticisms on this show, nor are we determinedly sitting here with our fingers in our ears going, la 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 la, you can't say no bad about this show, la 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 la. It's got its issues. What is a little bit unfair is how much this show has been judged overall by some of these issues. The point of this article, it may not succeed in completely changing one's mind about Discovery in general, but it is absolutely about highlighting some of the great things that Star Trek Discovery has done, both for itself as a show and for Star Trek as a franchise. I'm Sean Ferrick for TrekCulture, and here are 10 reasons to stop hating Star Trek Discovery. Number 10. Let's go, Disco! It's a bit of a truism by now to say that Star Trek Discovery was responsible for the return of the franchise to the small screen, but it's one worth the reiteration. Nevertheless, it can't just be lauded for that fact alone. A Star Trek by another name could have ushered in the new era. What Discovery did in that sense is not nearly as important as how it did it, but it's the how that seems to divide most fans. The tone was off, it's too dark and pessimistic, it was serialized, it was emotionally overwrought, and so on and so forth. With the retrospect of about 6 years and the hindsight of knowing the plot, and putting aside what happened to the Klingons, that look is burned into our retinas more than that time Lorca watched the sun's rise in a trinary system. We can safely say that Discovery Season 1 did the how a lot better than we may originally have thought. It was dark in tone because it needed to be. The captain was from the Shadyverse, the mood is always set from the top. There was a war on as well. Speaking of eyes, the whole season was a feast for them, more on that later. And for anyone tempted by a "this is not Star Trek," Discovery was pretty faithful to the original from the very beginning, all whilst attempting something new. For the new, we got a bounty of beautiful ships for the canon. For the familiar, there were some very recognisable tricorders and phasers, Harry Mudd, time travel, Spock's parents, the Mirror Universe, the Enterprise, and yes, even those Klingons count. Still need convincing? Let's take a visit to the props department. Number 9. But to connect. When you pop on an episode of any television series, especially since the advent of streaming, it's easy to forget just how much work went into making it. If you are fully immersed, that means they've done their job, but it pays to pause for a second and consider the efforts made behind the scenes. When it came to designing the props for Season 1 of Star Trek Discovery, an almost forensic amount of care and attention was put into ensuring a connection and continuity to the original series. As shown in the Season 1 DVD Blu-ray special featurette, Prop Me Up, devices such as the phaser and tricorder were, in essence, reverse engineered, keeping the core 60s aesthetic while accounting for a logical progression in the in-universe interim. The tricorder was a particular challenge given the advancements in medical technology in the real world. As property master Mario Moreira described it, we started thinking about gloves, smart fabric, holograms on the wrists, but that failed the concept of reverse engineering from the original series. Executive producer Alex Kurtzman also stated, "Obviously we look far more modern than the original series, but it would be strange if something had been really advanced and then suddenly went backwards 10 years later." Whether they were entirely successful at that is up for debate, but the communicator still flipped, and phasers still had a stun setting. Number 8. A vision for Gene. No matter what you think about Star Trek Discovery, you can't say it doesn't look good. In fact, with the boost in CGI technology since Star Trek Enterprise, Discovery set the bar as the most visually spectacular Star Trek we'd ever seen on television. Each episode felt like a mini-movie from day one. Perhaps we're all just a bit more discerning. Perhaps we're all a bit spoiled. The sheer amount of love and care that goes into making every frame is undeniable. One relatively short sequence alone from the series' debut episode, in which Michael Burnham leaves the Shenzhou to go to the artifact, represented around 5 to 6 months of work for the creators. The Vulcan Hello was quite rightly nominated for a Visual Effects Society VES award for Outstanding Visual Effects in a Photoreal episode. The word vision has another, now very loaded, Trekly defined meaning. What would Gene Roddenberry think has been the natural leitmotif for all those wanting to respect the creator's ethos, but "this is not Gene's vision" can also work to dismiss out of hand any element of Star Trek that we please. However, as Gene himself once said in the Star Trek saga From One Generation to the Next, "I would hope there are bright young people growing up all the time who will bring to Star Trek levels and areas that were beyond me, and I don't feel jealous about that at all. It'll go on without any of us and get better and better and better, because that really is the human condition. It's to improve and improve. Number 7. Hello, Vulcan. Bryce. Hails from Captain Pike, sir. Burnham. It's the USS Enterprise. I mean, come on, people. The very last scene of Star Trek Discovery's first season was pretty jaw-dropping. A Priority 1 distress call from the pre-Kirk captain of the ship that began it all, and the Enterprise looked good. Resituate this within the context of the time of the first broadcast of Will You Take My Hand, Kelvin timeline notwithstanding, we'd not heard so much as a peep from Pike in canon since the Menagerie. So to hear his name alone was thrilling. This was yet another example of Discovery honouring Star Trek history, really as far back as you can go, whilst moving the franchise forward. In the episode, there was also a knowing stare between Michael Burnham and adoptive father Sarek on the bridge, undoubtedly meant to match that between the viewers. Season 1 had begun with the Vulcan hello method for Klingon diplomacy, but Season 2 was sure to be greeting a certain half Vulcan. Millions of Trekkies, both young and old, have absolutely loved Anson Mount's Pike and Ethan Peck's Spock, and their portrayal of these iconic Star Trek characters. We know it's coming to an end, and we want more. Read part of the Change.org petition launched on the 4th of April 2019, eventually gathering 30,067 signatures. So popular was this Season 2, it essentially got its own show. As Alex Kurtzman said in a statement upon the announcement of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, when we said we heard the fans' outpouring of love for Pike, Number 1 and Spock last season, we meant it. Number 6. Millennial Pause. Whilst not all fans have appreciated the jump by nearly a millennium to the 32nd century, the fact that Star Trek Discovery has managed to pull double duty as a prequel to the original series and then a sequel to everything else is pretty impressive. We often talk about the growth between the first seasons and 3-4 other Star Trek seasons, but none have leaped as far forward as 930 years. Discovery should be applauded for doing the bold in the mission statement with such panache. It's far more than just A for effort. Season 2 was a particular excellent season, but the move to the 32nd century has, to our minds, been a fruitful one and fascinating to watch. With the near millennial pause to start, the crew of the Discovery were out of step, having to learn to play around with programmable matter, beam and scan with tri-com badges, get to know a new Ni'Var, readjust to centuries of history that was once their future, and process the trauma from their trip. We won't be bereft of the 32nd century either after Discovery's final season. We will continue to see the era in what appears to be a direct spin-off, the long-awaited and much talked and written about Star Trek Starfleet Academy, with Tony Newsom of Mariner fame in the writer's room, no less. Number 5. Relic and Co. Lyra Relic, no relation, played by the incomparable Sheila Horstel, is an integral part of Season 4, putting politics squarely at the heart of Star Trek. Relic is a no-nonsense and no-fool type character, but she clearly cares about the cause. Indeed, the symbolism of having a woman of human, Bajoran and Cardassian heritage placed in charge of healing a fractured Federation that was without founder members Earth and Vulcan, Ni'Var, is not lost on anyone with so much as a copy of Galactic History for Dummies on their shelf or pad. Whether you agree with her decisions or not, watching Relic deal with the political turmoil of the 32nd century through one catastrophe after another is easily one of the best things about Discovery. Shortly after her inauguration as president, Relic unveiled the brand new Archer space dog to a group of fresh Starfleet Academy cadets, the Academy having reopened for the first time since the burn about 120 years prior. As Relic speaks of a return to scientific exploration for Starfleet, Archer's theme from Star Trek Enterprise begins to play and the camera moves to view the eponymous space dock. Unless your heart is colder than a lab on Psi 2000, you can't hate such a hopeful moment. You simply can't. Number 4. Rad Dad, and lovely to know. Who doesn't love a good Dadmiral? Well, maybe Tom Paris, but he and his father both found a path to healing eventually. Tell him I miss him, and I'm proud of him. Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Sorry, back. Bucking the Badmiral trend, Season 3 of Discovery gave us Fleet Admiral Charles Vance, the Starfleet C&C, and loveliest, most delightful bearded dad of them all. I think most of us fell into the assume all admirals are pure evil until proven otherwise trap, at first with Vance. Beards can work both ways after all. Vance was a little standoffish at the start, but then wouldn't you be a bit suspicious if a 930-year-old supposedly destroyed starship that was technically breaking the law against time travel and using an unknown piece of propulsion technology suddenly rocked up at your door? The Admiral was a good and decent man, however, in the bad situation of having to head Starfleet through one of the Federation's worst periods post-burn. The dangers he faced had also separated him from the wife and daughter he loved dearly. Thanks in largest of parts to the USS Discovery, Vance was back with his family by the Season 4 opener Kobayashi Maru, and all of our hearts were a bit better for it. That's not to forget that touching toast with Tilly as the world was ending in Coming Home. Vance is not the only dad the show has to offer. Don't forget to check out our list on Hugh Culber for another heartwarming family story. Number 3. Multitalented Multiverses. We've touched on this, but there is most certainly one thing you can't hate about Star Trek Discovery, and that's its all-round everything bagel of outstanding talent everywhere, on and off screen. Discovery has attracted exceptional actors from the get-go, with Sonequa Martin Green, well known for The Walking Dead as Michael Burnham, and movie star Jason Isaacs as Captain Lorca. Sci-fi worlds then collided when renowned director David Cronenberg came aboard in Season 3 as Dr. Kovich. For real-world science, the theory of parallel universes is just that, a theory, but in science fiction the idea has long been a boon to storytellers. And most importantly here, it gave Discovery 2 versions, if one all but brief, of Philippa Georgiou for Michelle Yeoh to play. Unless you've been living in the mirror universe all this time, you'll be aware that Yeoh recently won an Oscar for her performance in another universe-hopping tale and will be returning to Star Trek in 2024 in the Section 31 original movie event. The behind-the-scenes talent and creativity on Discovery also spans universes. Just as gaudy medals had adorned the chests of the original series and Enterprise's despotic counterparts, for Star Trek's return to the Mirror Universe in Season 1, the props department creating a whole list of dastardly Terran commendations, and the regalia pins to match, including Master of Poisons, 50 kills, 100 kills, and Mortal Wound Survivor. Number 2. In love with the shape of Saru. No one can reproach Discovery for not being creative when it comes to alien species. We've been thoroughly spoiled for novelty, see example Osnulus, exceptional makeup and prosthetics, for example see Linus, a Saurian, and some outstanding CGI numbers for the radically alien species such as the 10C. Speaking of new aliens, Saru quickly became a fan favourite character, although there might still be those who look at him and go, ooh, fricassee. Saru is also played by the tremendously talented Doug Jones, so prolific an actor and creature makeup legend that if you print off his IMDb page, you'll be charged with ecocide. Because no one had ever seen or heard of a Kelpian before, Jones had free rein to create Saru's physicality quite literally from the ground up. In a 2019 interview, Jones told StarTrek.com that Saru's posture, stance, and signature sway of the arms behind the back came almost immediately from the delicious boots he was given to wear. The hoof of the shoe made the effect of pushing his frame forward, making Saru walk, as Jones put it, like a supermodel. Also, as the first Kelpian in Starfleet, Jones decided that Saru would be very polite, very mannerly, very gentlemanly, but always with an undercurrent of fear, until his Vaharai. To get the mannerisms right, Jones said he channeled the butler from Downton Abbey. Number 1. The TXUS Factor. We don't know much at this stage about the upcoming 5th and, alas now, final season of Star Trek Discovery outside of the first look snippets for New York Comic Con 2022, an action-packed extended clip, and some behind-the-scenes goodies. The main thrust of the season, according to StarTrek.com, will be a mystery that will send the crew on an epic adventure across the galaxy to find an ancient power whose very existence has been deliberately hidden for centuries. That's certainly enough to whet our appetite. Let's fly. If you liked the tonal shift between Seasons 1 and 2, then you'll no doubt appreciate the change ahead for Season 5. As Jonathan Frakes, who has directed the season's penultimate episode, told Star Trek Explorer magazine, Discovery is Indiana Jones this year instead of the heavy emotion of Season 4. Discovery is back on track as an action-adventure show. The Season 5 finale was also partly reshot to make it the series finale. In an interview for Cinema Blend earlier this year, Frakes said, I think they've got a stunning plan for a very satisfying ending. In anticipation, actor Elias Toufexis has also been teasing his role in Season 5 as new baddie La'ak. Replying on Twitter to the question, who's your favourite Star Trek couple, TXUS posted an image of La'ak and partner in crime Maul with the line, "You guys haven't even met the real answer yet." After the SAG-AFTRA strike had ended, TXUS was also able to tweet visuals of La'ak's ship, simply stating, "I have my own Star Trek ship." That's absolutely bonkers to me brain. TXUS and Frakes' unfettered enthusiasm is infectious, and we can't help but be swept up in it. Season 5 does look like one hell of a ride after all. For the show that restarted Star Trek, Discovery's final outing might just be the one to get the series the love it deserves. Thank you very much everyone for watching along, and hopefully you've taken something from this video that perhaps you didn't consider before, or you read all 10 bits and went, yeah, I'm on board with that. Thank you so much everyone following along. Remember, we're over on Twitter at TrekCulture. We're on Instagram at TrekCultureYT. You're awesome. You are wonderful. Until I see you again, make sure you look after yourself. Be kind to yourself. Lead with love. Lead with kindness. And put a bit of brightness out into the world. You're awesome. Live long and prosper. Thanks.